This week on Capitol Report.
And with your support, I am fighting for our nation's future.
Harris in, Biden out. Major shakeup in the race for the White House.
I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president.
State Democrats rally around Harris.
And there is a burst of energy and excitement. It's real exuberance.
Hello!
While Republicans voice their concerns.
The Democrats are in utter disarray.
I felt like it was a Dear John letter. You know, he left the country at the altar.
We are gathered here today. Now, where's she going? Don't.
Plus, how is Governor Lamont celebrating his latest poll numbers?
I'm going to Montego Bay.
Looking good, Billy Ray.
Feeling good, Louis.
And we pay tribute to the airport bar.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Time to get serious. Capitol Report starts now. Welcome to Capitol Report. I am Tom Dutcher. We picked a bad day to give up sniffing glue. alongside...
Who says we gave it up?
Alongside the mayor of Bloomfield, Connecticut, Danielle Wong. Good morning. The former Speaker of the House, Joe Arison, was with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Liz Carano, Republican strategist with us. Johnny Mack is back. Former...
Good morning. I'm a big Trading Places.
Big Trading Places guy. Me too, guys. All right, guys, chalk up another wild week in the world of politics. Joe Biden out. Kamala Harris in. The president calling on voters to defend democracy as his main reason to end his re-election bid, and back to vice president as the Democratic Party's candidate. Harris now at the top of the ticket. One might say this kind of rekindles the Democrats' fire, giving the party a little vim and vigor after weeks of questions surrounding President Biden's chances to defeat Donald Trump. As for the response from Connecticut's Democrats in power, well, take a listen to this.
I think she's going to be a great nominee for our party and an extraordinary president. I was proud to endorse her.
I am all in, and I think you will see the Democratic Party in Connecticut and all around the country extraordinarily unified as we have never been before, because Kamala Harris is such a leader in her own right. She's going to carry on the agenda.
I will work with her, do anything and everything that she needs to win this election, and she will win this election.
Connecticut Republicans have some issues with the old switcheroo on the candidates. Take a listen to this.
I do find it interesting that for the first time, I believe, in the history of our country, a political party has sought to depose its own sitting president in order to be able to maintain its own power base in the House and the Senate, and, which is, I think, a sad commentary on the Democratic Party, but understandable that they're afraid they're going to lose power if he runs. So they wanted him out, and they want to put somebody else in.
What is the precedent this is setting? What is it doing for democracy? Because we had a primary, for better or worse. All those 14 million people that voted now, their votes are irrelevant, and it's going to shift to a convention-style process where the decision is going to be made by a few thousand people.
Well, my Democratic friends, as the saying goes, happy days are here again. The skies again are clear again. Joe Arison.
Well, look, I think Chairman Proto's argument is a little disingenuous. Here, on one hand, they're going all the way up to that he's not capable to serve. He can't be the candidate. Then the Democrats go ahead and switch it. And now he's saying, oh, what did you guys do? It seems you can't have it both ways. Let's be fair. Let's first honor what Joe Biden did, what he did walking away from it, knowing, I think he knew personally and his family knew, he just wasn't up to being candidate and president at the same time. He stepped back. How many people have really done that? You know, you're right there on the precipice to be elected. Yeah, LBJ and George Washington. Okay, so it's a small group. But he should be recognized for all of his achievements. His comments from the Oval Office, the Resolute Desk, were very powerful. But what to me was more powerful is when he walks out to the Rose Garden and there's 100 staffers out there giving him a round of applause just for the person he is and the heart that he has. So we have to recognize him. We have to appreciate him. I think he will go down in history as one of the greatest presidents we've had in the last 100+ years.
Yeah, absolutely. The president is a hero for stepping aside and passing the torch to our nominee to be Kamala Harris, the vice president. There there has been a shift in the energy throughout the country, especially in Connecticut.
You're beaming this morning.
I am beaming. I have never been so proud to be an American. In the pride from community, the groundswell, the energy is just unprecedented. You know, within hours of the announcement, you've had 44,000 black women galvanize and organize on a Zoom call remotely. The next few hours, you have black men, over 45,000 galvanized. Just last Thursday night, you had over 100,000 white women galvanized on behalf of Kamala Harris, and you have other pockets and subgroups just coming out strong for this nominee. Like, this is a huge shift in the energy throughout the country. This is historical. We should be celebrating this, not demonizing.
Having said that,
well, you know, I do have to say on a personal note, there was real excitement for me because all the Democrats went from Joe Biden's not too old to, wow, we're going to shift to this younger generation. Vice President Harris and I are the same age.
You're young,
so
John.
I woke up and I said, I'm the younger next generation. Maybe there's a political comeback in my future. Who knows? I do want to say this. You know, I've heard a lot of some of my Republican friends, and I'm still a Republican, talk about Vice President Harris being picked as a DEI candidate. I want them to stop with that nonsense. You know, the Constitution says you need to be 35 years old, a natural-born citizen, and a resident of the United States for 14 years. You are qualified to run for president. She is more than qualified to run for president. Let's run a campaign on ideas. I think she's going to be saddled with the Biden-Harris record, and it's the middle of July. Enthusiasm now. Let's see what happens. I just want the gaslighting on both sides to stop.
Thank you.
Again, a week ago, Joe, my Democrat friends said Joe Biden wasn't too old. Now they're saying Donald Trump is too old. Both sides need to stop. Let's have a real campaign on the issues.
I agree, John, and I applaud you for saying that.
Look, I mean, the Democrats used the jaws of life to pry this nomination away from Joe Biden and give it to Kamala Harris, disenfranchising voters and circumventing democracy. I will not hear one Democrat lecture anyone about protecting our democracy. Stop it. You don't do it in Bridgeport, and you're not doing it for the presidential nomination. So I'm glad everyone's all hyped up and excited about Kamala Harris. But the reality is, I saw somebody say, oh, this is a speech the president never wanted to give. He ran his last election on being a transition candidate. Democrats themselves had so little faith in Kamala Harris's ability to be president of the United States that they ran Joe Biden again. So, I mean, listen, spare me on democracy and protecting us. You disenfranchised 14 million voters, and now you're going to go lecture the country how you're the ones that are going to protect our democracy? No, thank you.
So, guys, with Biden in the race, people in Connecticut here were looking at this to be a 1982 race with Reagan Mondale sweeping the state of Connecticut, kicking out Billy Rassford and getting John Rowland in the 5th, and a guy named Tom Dutchick in the House of Representatives,
I know that
along with
guy.
Republican majority in the House, Republican majority in the Senate. Guys, what does this now do down ballot?
I mean, I'm happy to take a swing at that first. I mean, I think, look, I don't think anybody was looking at it in those huge terms, right? I mean, this is still a Democrat state. Democrats outnumber Republicans significantly on registration. Democrat enthusiasm was down. So what does this mean? Now Democrats are back enthused. Both presidential campaigns are running to their respective party base. Kamala Harris has not spoken to the swing voters of this country, not at all. Everything she's doing is very much along party lines. And so what does that mean? There's an opportunity there for candidates down ballot to really address the issues that swing voters care about and to try and go talk to them about the border, which Biden-Harris screwed up, about the economy, and affordability.
But Danielle,
Biden-Harris.
it is early. They're framing the questions now. She's reaching out to the voters she needs to get right now back in the tent. The young voters, black women, black men. That's the strategy now.
Absolutely. That's the strategy now. You see the polls climbing inch by inch. Yes, and I think they're going to continue to climb. What does this do to the down ballot? It's going to do amazing things for the down ballot. Right here in the 5th, you have communities galvanized. People want to do something. They want to support the top of the ticket, which is Kamala. And how to do that, they have to support the down ballot, including Jahana Hayes right here in the 5th. You have multiple organizations, again, galvanizing community efforts, fundraising, grassroots efforts. Everyone is looking down to the communities to really uplift their candidates. Where we felt that Biden was going to kind of, you know, swing down the ticket, we have Kamala really rising up the ticket. And so that's the exciting thing.
John, you buying that?
Not yet. I think we're still looking at a base normal turnout election. I don't think we get the Reagan landslide of '84. I don't think we get the Obama turnout of 2008. But it's July. Let's see what happens. I think if it's a base election, I think the impact on down ballot's going to be minimal.
All right, guys, there's a lot of chatter about who Harris will pick as a running mate. Speculation has surrounded a few Democratic governors in swing states. This comes as Morning Consult has put out their list of most popular Democratic governors in the country. And take a look at who is third place on the list, our own Ned Lamont, the Nedster. Ned Lamont remains very popular among voters here in Connecticut. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is the most popular. Another possible VP choice, Pennsylvania's Josh Shapiro, rounds out the top 5. Guys, let's talk about our governor still strong in the polls as we near the halfway mark on term 2, Joe Simowitz.
Well, look, I think this totally justifies my crush on Ned Lamont. I mean, the voters, the voters really do see him as I do. He's a good-hearted person. He really wants the best for the state of Connecticut. He's out there talking to voters all the time. He's working on reconfiguring the government, talking affordable housing, economic development. It is the middle. You know, we talk a lot about what voter registration here is in the state of Connecticut. Democrats outnumber the Republicans, but the reality is independents outnumber them both. And Ned Lamont speaks in a way that people hear and people relate to. He is not only a good person, he's doing a great job as governor. My question is, how do we talk him into a third term?
Well, with those numbers, a third term will be a slam dunk. A lot of Democratic governors up there. Ned Lamont would have been a great choice for Vice President Harris. I don't think she's going to pick him,
no.
and I hope we don't lose him. And I don't think any of those governors are going to be picked as her VP. I think it's going to be Senator Kelly from Arizona. He's the best choice.
Who do you pick, Danielle?
You know who I like? Tim Walz. I don't know. I never knew the guy, but he's on all the CNNs and the MSNBCs, and this is the first time I've heard of him. Don't know too much.
Former congressman who once got an A from the NRA. I think he's off the list.
Okay, well, don't know too much. Thank you for that.
Vetting, right here on Capitol Report.
McKinney vetted him.
And Shapiro's off the list for sporting school vouchers. Let's be honest about this. She needs to think regionally, but she also needs to think about her party and her base.
Yeah, absolutely. But back to our governor, I think what that does broadly for the state of Connecticut is really, it's good. It's good positive branding. It's good retention. It's good attraction to younger families, companies, and retention of small businesses. So I think it's holistically good.
Yeah.
Look, I think this probably indicates the governor's got a lot of fertile ground and political capital to go run a third term if he makes that decision. There's a lot at stake. He has this political capital, and he needs to use it in the next legislative session because there is a lot that needs to be done, whether it's the guardrails. You know, we've just gotten knocked down by CNBC and business friendliness. There are a lot of policies that need to be addressed to continue to improve the state. So hopefully he uses the political capital he has to actually, you know, move the ball forward here.
All right, guys, up next on Capitol Report, what do young voters here in Connecticut think of the presidential election shakeup? We sent our own youngster to find out. News 8's political contributor, Mike Cerulli, the kid, get some insight from the youth vote. We get back. Do not go away.
The youths of America.
Did you say you?
The youth.
Youth of America. I got to get my years straight when I served in office. I mean, 84. You just fell out of a coconut tree? Are you having a brat summer? Do you not understand any of the words I just said? Well, McKinney thinks brats are, well, not brats. Well, as it turns out, coconuts and brats might have a bearing on Vice President Harris's odds to become the next leader of the free world. So joining us to make sense of all of this, if you can believe that, News 8's Mike Cerulli. Hey, Mike, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah, good morning, Tom. You know, to understand what's happening here, let's go back to the day President Biden announced he was dropping out of the race. That evening, the British singer-songwriter Charlie XCX tweeted, "Kamala is Brat." Now, that was a reference to Charlie's upbeat new album, Brat. Brat is a pop album with a lot of electronic and club music influences, and Brat has come to represent more than just the tracks on the album. For Charlie and a ton of people online, Brat reflects a mindset, a state of being, if you will. In Charlie's words, to be Brat is to be a little messy, to like to party, but also to be honest and blunt. And if you have those traits, you could be considered Brat. It's a semantic shift to the original meaning of the word, Tom.
Okay, Mike, thanks for the brat crash, of course. So where does Harris fit into all of this?
Yeah, so where Harris comes into this is actually interesting. If you spend any amount of time on the political corners of social media. You're probably familiar with clips and videos posted by Republicans of Vice President Harris that are, let's just say, meant to portray her as a little off balance. Think about her infamous coconut tree story, or her obsession with Venn diagrams, or her fixation on what can be unburdened by what has been. And up until last week, clips like these had been viewed as a political vulnerability. But throughout last week, young content creators really turned the tables and embraced those moments and started making TikTok edits of them. To sum it up, those clips went from being cringe to being brat. Brat-themed pro-Harris TikToks are racking up millions of likes. Take a look at how the traditional media outlets are taking note of this social media phenomenon. Tom, these posts are generating a lot of attention for Harris, and precisely at the moment that she needs it.
Okay, Mike, TikToks are one thing. Is Harris's newfound virality going to net her support among voters?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the question here. There is some recent polling that shows her improving over Biden with young voters. And to explain how the memes and the polls are connected, I would just point you to a conversation I had recently with a panel of fellow Gen Z voters. Here's what the head of the Connecticut College Democrats had to say about how voters on college campuses view all these Harris memes.
As funny as they are, they also have some undercurrent of actually being really effective at getting young voters to be interested in her. She's very positive. She has a lot of energy to her, and I think that's a lot of the things that Biden lacked that are going to make her campaign a lot stronger moving forward.
Mike Cerulli, our brat Gen Z correspondent. Thanks for being here, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And if folks want to watch my Youth Voters Roundtable, they can search WTNH.com for Youth Voters weigh in on the presidential election.
Well worth the watch, guys. Up next on Cap Report, Bekowski out, Aaron Conti in. Why should these names matter to everyone who pays utility bills in Connecticut? We'll discuss when we get back. Don't go away. McKinney, you were waiting for me to say virility. You were waiting for... Last Thursday, Governor Lamont announced he's nominating David Arroconte as Commissioner of Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, as PURA to McKinney, as the insiders like to call it, oversees the electric, gas, water, and telecom companies. The man Arroconte will replace John Bekowski, a Seymour guy, retiring after for 17 years as vice chair. Gov hoping the new leadership will advance the administration's goals of bringing cheaper, cleaner, more reliable power to consumers, while Republican leadership calls the Gov strategy on energy policy a failure, adding that my immediate worry is the lack of transparency associated with a regulatory authority that is, in essence, being run out of the governor's office. Liz, I know that you've been banging the drum on expanding the PURA board. You didn't quite get that, but we got some new blood.
Well, we didn't expand it, right? I mean, I love the Democrats in the legislature patting the governor on the back for adding a PURA commissioner. The reality is it's only for a few months, because come January they're back to 3. The real issue is, as my good friend Vin Candelora pointed out, this is all happening behind closed doors. There's no transparency, and frankly, the bigger issue is we don't have a long-term strategy on how we are going to address the utility costs in this state. And none of what's going on at PURA is helping that whatsoever. We are so behind the curve in our infrastructure, in the way that we're taxing consumers through utilities. And we need a long-term strategy. This is not good enough. It's just not.
I think it does take a step forward. Working with former Representative Arroconte, he was one of my deputies. I appointed him as the chair of the Energy and Technology Committee. And the way he dug into the issue, he came in with some experience, but not a great deal. Spent the entire time after I talked to him until session opened up, reading, talking to folks. He's the type of person you want there. He's a consensus builder. I applaud Governor Ned Lamont for picking him. He's the type of individual that's going to look at the problems. He's talked about our supply issues. He's talked about all the billing that we do for other projects that impact our consumers. So I think he's going to be a great voice. He's going to be a voice of the people, and it's a good appointment. It is 4 out of the 5. It does leave the appointment.
3 out of the 5.
Well, 3 out of the 5. It does leave the appointment open. Remember, Commissioner Gillette and Commissioner Karen are both holdovers. They haven't gone through the formal appointment process yet again for their new terms.
McKinney, here's a guy who came from UI. Republicans kind kind of like the fact that we got a guy who worked for a utility company coming in to regulate them.
Well, you know, David,
short-term stop.
His first term as a state rep from Danbury, he dug into issues. He's smart. He's also just someone who talks to everybody, try to get all points of view, and try to come up with what he thinks is the best solution for Connecticut. I think it's a really good appointment. I serve with Mike Cerulli. I think he's a really good guy, too, and I'm a big fan of Marissa Gillette. I think PURA is in good shape. I don't necessarily agree with you, Liz, that this is behind the scenes or, you know, behind the curtain. It's all out in the open. PURA has all their public meetings. Look, we need to get relief for ratepayers. That needs to be job number one for PURA.
Yep, so however it shakes out, the ratepayers have to come first, and I hope that we are more pro-consumer when we go into this new session.
There you go. All right, guys, next on Cap Report, we raise our glasses to good old airport bar. A story we get back. Do not go away. Cheers to that.
I've never been in an airport bar.
No, you
never.
Well, Tweed New Haven Airport may be small in size, but last week, Tweedy got a little hair on his chest when it added a key component to air travel experience, the airport bar. It's called the Grazing Goat. In addition to grabbing a cocktail before flying to Traverse City or New Bern, you can enjoy a charcuterie board. But all the snacking aside, the addition begs the question, does the bar at Tweed, guys, propel the airport to a whole new level when it comes to flying? What do you think, guys?
Well, it certainly helps dull the pain of having to go through the long security lines. I don't know if you guys have
There's no long security lines at Tweed.
Goodness, I had to wait for like half an hour to get.
We'll make some phone calls.
I'm just worried about the name. A Grazing Goat. We know what comes next. I hope that place doesn't.
There's no gates in Staven.
I can't believe Tom said there's a charcuterie board. It's in Staven.
And it's in Staven, right?
It's cheese and crackers. Tom. Come on, let's go.
Cheese and crackers. That's going to do it for us, for the mayor, the coach, Lizzie, Johnny Mac. I'm Tom Dutchick. See you next week.
All right.
Today's the day.
Oh, think so?
Faith.
In honor of the Women Olympic team.
Oh!
So close.
So close.
My foot.
Oh.
They're going to do better than I just did.
Good TV.